I am Todd from GoodCleanFunLife.com.
And I'm Tony Russo, no relation, broadcasting this week from the Space Station Mir, which actually looks less like the Space Station Mir now that we put stuff back here. This is my attic, and I got kicked out of the house because they're putting in a new door downstairs. So here I am on the internet from the former Space Station Mir, now just my trashy office that I'm working to. I had a little fun thing happen this morning. I felt kind of bad for my wife. I had to steal her plug for her computer to use on mine because mine was up here, and I'm going to continue to kid myself that this is the office that I'm going to use, but really just keep all my shit in a pile downstairs and then have her bring it up like once a month and put it in a big pile on my desk, and then the desk is too filthy to work on, so I bring everything down one at a time. It's kind of a fun game we play.
That sounds like a wonderful thing to do to your wife.
Yeah, I don't know if she likes it as much as I do.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I got all sorts of stuff this week. But I would like to start off with your. You have a particular story that happened this morning, and I have similar stories. I think we all have a bat story, don't we?
Well, we've been in this house now for a couple years. 100-year-old house. Obviously, there's going to be, some nuances and characteristics that are unique to any 100-year-old house. But we've always had critters of some sort or another. And as you know, Halloween time is our favorite time. And I hate to start talking about it already, although, as we mentioned before, the pumpkin beers are already coming out.
The Halloween store in Salisbury is opening soon.
There you go. So this morning, came downstairs, and I just put water on to make coffee, and was waiting for that to boil. And Nellie, who's getting up, she's running cross country, so she's up early. Goes, oh my goodness, there's a bat hanging from the kitchen window. It's just a little guy, is probably 4 inches. But it's one of those things where, like, I've encountered a bunch of critters before, but a mouse, you got a trap, they're gonna scurry off. We had a frog in the upstairs bathroom. I don't know how it got in the upstairs bathroom. We had a spider that was, as big as your fist in the breezeway for when we first moved in. That was a nice housewarming gift. But yeah, this was the first bat that we've had, and it was one of those things where it's attached to the screen in the kitchen window. I got crank out windows. I'm thinking maybe I can pop the screen out and just kind of shake them off, out the window. Nellie runs and gets a pillowcase, brings that back, and me and her are just kind of sitting there very matter-of-factly, and she goes, well, why don't I just grab him with the pillowcase and take him outside? I'm like, all right, that sounds good. You do that. And so that's what happened. And of course, once we got it safely outside, we promptly took zoomed in cell phone photos of it that are really blurry and not worth sharing, but we had to do that anyway.
Just to have him.
And so we had a bat. I don't know, they live in small, dark crevices and attics and that sort of thing. So, maybe he came out just to sun himself a little bit. Maybe he wasn't feeling well, but anyway, Nellie seems to be the bat girl extraordinaire.
Well, you may want to go upstairs and take a look around the attic, make sure you don't have a problem.
Yeah.
But we actually have had enough bats in this house. We have a bat protocol.
Yes.
And we have an interesting hallway that kind of bends and is kind of like it has an interesting. It used to have an interesting bend. Actually, we took the bend out when we redid the house. But up until then, what would happen is we would chase it from upstairs to downstairs, and it would get caught in the hallway. And this has happened 3 times.
Wow.
And so what happens is when the bat gets caught in the hallway, I get a towel, and it flies back and forth, and I throw the towel up, and it lands on the bat, or it doesn't. So like I'm trying to get the bat to fly into the towel.
Right.
And I've done this with birds as well. And flying things just get stuck in the hallway, and they have no place to go. And so eventually I just keep throwing it up in the air, and it catches it and it lands on the ground. And I take it outside and give it a shake, and off it goes. And that's how we deal. That's the bat protocol here at the Russo house. My scariest critter incident, though, had to do with a snake. And it wasn't that I was afraid of snakes. It was we occasionally, once in 20 years, we had a snake in our basement out and about. Like, I'm sure we have them in the crawl space, but this guy was in the laundry area of the basement, and made his way upstairs into the kitchen. And I wasn't afraid of the snake getting into the house so much as I was afraid of someone finding out that the snake was in the house, because like if word got out that there was a snake in the house, then my day was going to be over until I found the snake and got it out of the house. So there was like a 45-second period where I'm like, I don't care what you have to do not let that snake get into the kitchen. It was just right by the doorway. And I'm like, do what you got to do. Because I would just as soon not kill it. And I'm not much of a snake wrangler. I'm not country enough to just pick up a snake. So I have to convince it, to leave the house. And that was just such a scary moment for me. I'm like, I'll kill you before I let you slither off into the kitchen and have to tell my wife, by the way, there's a snake in the house. Because then, again, my day's over. What are you doing today? You're moving every piece of furniture until you find this little freaking snake. And so, yeah, critters. Fun time, critters.
That was one of the convenient things, I think, was that both Nellie and I were very calm. I was probably more sedated because I hadn't had my coffee yet. And we were fortunate that Natalie hadn't come downstairs either, because that could have created a whole nother
exactly.
Mess.
It's going to ramp up the intensity, the pressure of someone else's fear and expectation is always too much for me to bear. It's just like, you know what? I can do anything as long as I don't also have to keep you calm at the same time. I can keep you calm, or I can deal with the crisis, but I can't deal with the crisis and keep you calm. I'm not man enough, and I'll admit it.
That's good. That's good distinction to have, though. To be able to say I can do one or the other.
Right. Well, you have to know. I mean, I don't want to be too chauvinistic about it, but I do have 4 girls, and panic is something that girls do well. It's just they're good at panicking, and I'm not good at panicking. So like now I'm so not good at panicking that I forget that people panic until they do, and I don't know, like I don't understand the panic. So anyway, we're having a door put in downstairs, right? And no one would ever call me an optimist, not to my face, I don't think, and probably not behind my back. But the worker guy gets here, the construction guy gets here. Our door is too big. We have an old house, and our door is mal-sized. I don't know if you've run into this problem yet.
Sure.
But they don't make our door anymore, so we have to actually make the front of our house a little bit smaller to fit the new door. So we went out, picked out a new door. We got back here, and the first thing, so the guy comes to install it this morning and to build down the inside of the house. The first thing he says is, he saw the knob that we picked out, and he said, is this a 2-hole door? And now we have a problem, right? Like I wouldn't have said that. I would have gone and got the fucking door and looked, and no, everything's fine. Like it's like, oh look, we have no problem. Let's see if we can find one. Oh, we can't find one. Now we can move forward. I just move forward until I hit the problem, and then a lot of times I'll ignore the problem until it can't be ignored any longer, which is a fair criticism.
Yes. Having spent a lot of time in the construction industry, that is oftentimes the default answer. Kind of like, whoa,
Yeah.
There's something going on here. You need to take care of it first, and it can be insignificant.
And again, my poor wife's like, I don't know, did we? I don't know. I'm like, well, we can fucking look. The door's out there. This is something that's pretty easily solved, I think.
Yes.
And I'm being a little cartoonish about it. More likely, she's like, oh, I don't know. We could take a look. But again, I'm very sensitive to other people's anxiety. Like, well, I'm nervous about this because again, I'm not. So it's like sometimes I feel like a space alien. Well, I'm like, that's right. People get nervous about things like this. I get nervous about whether I'm going to, bring an axe to work someday.
Push that person in front of the bus.
My anxieties have to do with me acting out and ending up in jail.
There's a great story, and I don't know if I've told it. When I was building these houses, actually big, beautiful houses down on Route 1, right across from Sea Colony, they had these 4 by 8 foot tall windows. So these plate glass windows, and just beautiful, big. And we had a contracting crew that was their only job was to follow the framers, wrap the house in the Tyvek, and then put the windows in the hole. Square and level is what every carpenter base his trade on, and his reputation. But when you have somebody who's following somebody else, there's always the last guy screwed something up.
Right.
And it was great because at the time I had this punch out guy, Vinny Semino, and I know I brought him up before because he's a New Jersey guy. He had a mullet and walked with a limp because he fell off a ladder 20 years ago. But they're they have the forklift up and they're getting ready to put this huge window in the hole, and it's like a ½ inch out, out of square, and you got to shim and you got to, like this. And so they're doing this. They're, hands up. What do we do? Not my problem. And here comes Vinny, and he goes, "Oh, you got a problem?" Comes over with a sledgehammer while the window's resting half in the hole, hits the bottom plate to knock it over that ½ inch in like 2 or 3 swings, giving almost everybody a heart attack. And, and then it fits. He drops the sledgehammer, just walks away and keeps doing what he was supposed to be doing. So, so maybe if you ever have a character like that in your life, there are many life lessons that can be applied to, to many different things.
Yeah, it is very like, well, what's the worst case scenario? Who's going to die? Who's going to die? No one? Right.
Exactly.
Now, earlier when we were getting ready to start the show, we were talking, you said that you were telling me a story, and I thought that you were going antique shopping because you said you were at Chesterfield Heirlooms.
Yes.
And also watching Mad Max. So I would love to hear that story.
Well, so yesterday morning we were filming Chesterfield Heirlooms, which is not like you might think a antique store. It's actually a it's an independent farm, I guess.
Heirloom vegetables.
Yeah. So, and they use heirloom seeds to grow all of their stuff, and it's been really interesting. So, we've been a part of this. It's like a CSA, community served agriculture.
Awesome.
And sponsored, yes. So you pay a little bit and you get fresh veggies every week. And I was never a big squash and zucchini, which is what grows in the summertime.
Right.
But what's really neat is with this and learning a lot about it is they have all of these different varieties and all of this different types of vegetables that are just a little bit different, even in the same family of vegetables. We got cucumbers that instead of being long are like almost round. They almost look like an onion. And right. and the biggest thing, so obviously for me, I'm not the cook, I'm not the chef. Natalie is, and she loves them. But the biggest thing is like, oh, they look and they have different cool things. But the realization is that vegetables are grown for fruits and vegetables are grown for transportation first, and then like color and look second, and taste third. So like what you get at the grocery store looks, bell pepper looks bright and beautiful and red, but it is, until you taste it side by side with something like an heirloom vegetable, it is, completely bland. And so it was really interesting to see both Matt and Stephanie, who run Chesterfield Heirlooms, like they gave us a tour of the place, and like, all right, whatever. My grandfather had a garden. He had green beans and corn and some potatoes, right. But like everything was different. And then there were like, oh, this is called a turkey gizzard bean because the fable or the story is that early settlers cut the head off a turkey and found this in the what's the goblet thing called? The gizzard thing? Yes. That goblet. They found seeds in and planted those seeds, and that's the strain of beans. And then they keep, so they keep the same beans. So it just makes perfect sense for somebody who loves food somebody who likes being outdoors, and also the history major aspect of it is, was really quite interesting. Mm-hmm. And then later that day, to come full circle in the day, we were watching Mad Max Fury Road. I don't know. Have you seen that? It's pretty good. We sprung for it more than, we actually purchased it. And I can remember thinking to myself, why would I ever purchase a digital copy of something? But it was pretty amazing cinematic experience. And just a cool story. But in the basis of the story of this, post-disastrous world, there's only two factions. One controls gasoline and one controls the water. There's like one well that, this guy, and but then there's this like band of, several different bands, but one has heirloom seeds that they used to grow when the land was more bountiful. And right. So I'm like, man, Matt and Stephanie over at Chesterfield Heirloom, when the apocalypse happens, I'm going to go find them because they got the seeds that are going to, help carry on. And obviously they're going to be the good guys once the movie comes to fruition.
Well, you know that there are seed banks.
Say that again.
There are seed banks.
Yes.
So like there's a place in Zurich that has one of every seed or like 3 of every seeds in cold storage forever.
Yes.
So if we ever have so like things that have gone extinct, they when things go extinct, they still have them, and they can put them back in play if they want. They can do whatever they want with that. So I think that's fascinating.
Well, and what's also cool is we were talking to them. It's not like they get the seeds and then they replant. They actually work with, I guess, these like seed co-ops where, so there's like, they do the growing and distributing, but then there's also this, whatever up the chain distribution wise, people that just deal seeds. So that's, right. That's interesting.
Well, yeah. And then if you would like to tie it to beer, which I always like to do, that's one of the things that Brooks does, the guy who grew the barley for the local beer, that Burley. Yeah. He gets experimental seeds and he figures out how to make them grow in this climate. That's like one of his many sidelines. And so he would be one of the guys that, so he'll plant a seed and do it a couple different ways to see how which way it grows and which way it doesn't. And then he'll make recommendations so that way when the Chesterfield Heirloom people get to see, they're like, okay, well, when you're growing it in this area, you have to do this, that, and the other thing to make it happy here, because a lot of plants can be grown out of the zone. They just have a different growing season or different watering requirements and stuff like that. And there's so much to know. It really is head hurting.
Yeah, and it's that side by side comparison. I know I've been in with Burley and Aaron, who has a very distinguished palate, coming from the chef world also, like tasting two grains or because it wasn't, or maybe it was barley's, I don't know, like side by side. One tasted like stale cereal and the other had just a little bit more, almost indiscernible, but unless you were tasting them side by side, you wouldn't really notice.
Right, you're not going to remember.
Yeah, so it was it's pretty interesting, and just like you said, there's a little bit of experimentation that they're doing over there too, because the soil's a little bit more sandy where they are, and they have stuff that's in the south that has richer soil. So yeah, there's that play involved.
And actually, while we're on Burley, let's just plow on through, because the anniversary is coming up, and more than that.
Yes, yeah. So actually, the anniversary party's Wednesday, tomorrow, in their 4-year anniversary. It's hard to believe that it's been 4 short years. I'm wondering if a hurricane will make landfall, as it did the first and second year of their scheduled opening. But yeah, Batson's Breakfast is going to be playing, and I was meeting with them and reminiscing because Zach, the hot blonde intern that started with us, you and me both, so many so many years ago, is getting married in September. So we were meeting with them, and the band that's going to be playing, and it's a typical small town family type stuff.
Right. Well, now, so does Burley still keep its anniversary on the 29th? Is that the 25th?
26th? Yeah. What is tomorrow? So I think
26th.
I think it slides. Ever so little as necessary, but because I know they have the canning, or they're planning on the canning party coming up shortly after that, a year later.
Yeah, because I feel like it was the 29th.
Yeah, maybe.
I feel like if you check the historical record, which I wrote, it's like, I think it's the 29th. I don't think it's the 26th. Although I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
And they didn't really open until September because what was that hurricane? Irene didn't hit until Labor Day weekend.
Right.
If you recall, like literally Labor Day weekend was when they opened, and that was, I feel like it was the 4th, September 4th or something like that, 3rd or 4th.
Yep.
Anyway, doesn't matter. But speaking of their anniversary, we have our anniversary, and it's interesting because in the Todcast history, we were kind of homeless while we were waiting for them to open up, just like they were, like saying, "Oh, we're going to open any day now." I mean, we did Todcasts from there when it was a shell.
Yeah.
And the plan always was to get back there and to do it from Burley, and it took us. It may have taken us a year because we're coming up on 200, and so that's about 4 years as well.
Yeah.
It makes me think that we might be way over 200.
Really?
Well, if you think if Burley really has been open for 4 years, and 50, and there are 50 weeks in a year, and so 4 times 50 is 200, but there are 52 weeks in a year, so 4 times 52 is 208, and we were doing it for several months before Burley opened. I think we're well over 200. I think we started at the wrong time, but that's okay.
Well, that's all right, because I think the historical records came from you. So talk about a loose based anniversary date. I guess that's where we're at.
We did start in March.
Yeah.
And they did open in September. So I feel like if they're coming up on 4 years, we're March, April, May, June, July, August. Yeah, we're coming up on 2.5 years. I have 4.5 years, but it doesn't matter. Episode 200, we said it was arbitrary, and we meant it, and that is coming up in the coming weeks, and hopefully we'll celebrate by both of us remembering to be here. That might be a good start.
Right.
I set my alarm, but it didn't work last week, so now I set it to go off the day before. So Monday night, I get an alarm saying Todcast in the morning.
There you go.
That helped a lot because I planned better and I got all my work done. Last week there was a crisis at my job. And it just threw my whole morning out of whack. But this week I was prepared to prevent that from happening. And by prepared, I mean I'm not looking at my email till after the show.
Plausible.
They have my cell phone if they really need me, right?
Right. Well, you had a little bit of before we're getting short on time, but you had a very popular thing happen to you online with the bagels, right?
I did. I got a little bagel heat, which I always, every time I have the courage to do a rant and also kind of focus it, I always get a little bit. But I made my Medium debut. I've been wanting to write on Medium more, and I did. I wrote about bagels. You can see it at OSSURYNLT. At Medium. I'm just going to beat that to death. Eventually I'm gonna say it's my name backwards and someone's gonna get it.
Yes.
So yeah, if you want to catch it on, my brother eats blueberry bagels, which I think are gross. And normally it's not a problem. Like it's like kind of between us, but he called me out because I'm always like, there's only blueberry bagels left, and I like salt bagels. So he took a picture of a bunch of salt bagels, and he posted that on the internet to kind of like jab me. But earlier in the day, I had heard Jon Stewart do a rant about how blueberry bagels were gross. And so I thought of him, and I kept my trap shut. And then he said something, so I had to say something back. But anyway, if you get a chance to take a look at it, it's fun. And it also kind of ties into the Chesterfield heirlooms in that I coined a phrase. The phrase I coined is McDonald's, and I think that our taste buds have been so McDonald's that we just can't. We often don't know the difference between what tastes good and what is just salt.
Yes.
And it drives me bonkers. And it drives me bonkers, interestingly, since salt bagels are my favorite bagel.
Well, I'm in the camp with you that I think blueberry bagels are gross. And I just got a gasp from the studio audience. Yes, the sweet stuff. I mean, brown sugar cinnamon on toast is cool, but like bagels are meant to be savory.
If you get a chance to look, you can look at the comments. It's pretty. I knew it was kind of divisive. I didn't realize how divisive it was. Toasted versus non-toasted clearly is a very divisive issue, and I probably shouldn't talk about that because we don't have that kind of time. But I didn't realize how blueberries. People are like, no one feels mad about blueberry bagels. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
But yes, we are running out of time. Again, we're gonna reorganize. We're gonna take this show to the next level eventually. Swear to God. Where we show up, we're prepared. We have enough to talk about, but not too much to talk about, and someone listens. Those are the 3 goals for episode 300.
In that order, in
that order. Show up, be interesting, get people to listen. Really, what else do you need to know?
Yeah.
But for now, we're gonna call it a day because I don't have anything else. How about you?
I got nothing.
All right. Well, may Todd give you the sense to live in a small town.
We'll see you next week at Coffee Hour.
Coffee Hour. Happy coffee.
Cheers.